Hello, mysterious person behind the screen, and welcome back to another audio commentary with me and Isaac.
It's got.
It's got to be done because today we are starting a series of audio commentaries on Back to the Future. One of the most iconic film series ever made, I would say. So, a bit of a daunting one to do, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So, without further ado,
If you'd like to sync this up with the Blu-ray copy of Back to the Future, put the film to the start and press play in 3, 2, 1, go.
now at one time I would have pegged this as being my all-time favourite film. And it's still right up there for me. It's still
Oh, yeah, same here, yeah.
it's
Old
never kind
Universal.
of. I know, yeah, I love the old Universal logo. I've seen that in front of a few modern films recently. Actually, Knock at the Cabin used it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's cool. But yeah, I got to see this film in the cinema as well. 2015, so for the 30th anniversary, I got to see this in the cinema, which was great fun.
Oh,
Um,
nice. I have
yeah,
seen the stage version, which is incredible.
nice. Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
ask about that because I haven't seen
Mhm.
it, but I've heard so many good things. I was going to ask about that.
It is really good. There's differences here and there for to adapt on to the stage, but yeah, if you love the
Yeah.
film, you will love the musical as well because it's the perfect love letter.
It sort of feels like the musical has been very kind of welcomed by the fans because any attempt at like a reboot or a remake,
Mm.
it just never works. Everyone's so resistant to it, and with this franchise in particular, I think more than any
Yeah, it's
others.
funny when you hear those right-wing morons say, and what's next? They're going to destroy Back to the Future. I mean, who wants to tell them that their arch enemy Kathleen Kennedy helped make this?
Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah. They'd have a fit if they,
Yeah.
if but um, yeah, it's so protected as a film. I find like any discussion of a reboot just immediately gets shut
I know
down.
Robert
It's
Zemeckis
so
has said
beloved.
Back to the Future 4 or a remake will never happen as long as he's alive.
Yeah, he's like blocking it, isn't he? Which is good.
Yeah.
I'm
So
glad.
if he turns up mysteriously dead, we know who to blame. We can blame the makers of the Back to the Future remake.
Yeah, because the last thing we need is a Back to the Future legacy sequel as well. It's
Yeah,
just
we don't
we
need
don't need
one, to
it.
be honest. But in
Um,
fairness, it does kind of open itself to endless sequels because it involves time travel. Kind of like Doctor Who, you can do anything with the time travel concept, but obviously they wrap
very true.
everything up in part three when they destroyed the DeLorean.
Yeah, 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 exactly. It's I also I think it's also a film that has never gone under any significant negative reevaluation. Like I feel like a lot of classics from this time, you get a certain subset of people nowadays who are like, oh, actually, it hasn't aged very well and it's not very good. But this, I don't see people. I never have seen anyone say that about these films.
I think the only debate I see about the franchise is just like basically this is just all for the sequels, and people debate, okay,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
one is
yeah.
better, which one is worse, and we'll obviously get to those two. But yeah, when it comes to the first one, I've not heard anyone have a bad word to say about this.
It's basically a perfect film.
It
Um,
is, yeah.
there's a reason that this script is taught in schools.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's like with the amount of little jokes and tidbits that you pick up on second viewing, it would not surprise me if it inspired the Cornetto trilogy.
oh, 100%. In fact,
That
yeah.
style of writing where, you say a throwaway line, but it turns out to be extremely important later on.
Mm, I would say it's a safe bet that it did
Hmm.
because like you pick up on something new each time you watch it. Like that whole opening titles there is kind of again it's perfect because it sets everything up so beautifully without
Yeah,
ever
even
kind
the
of.
news report is reporting like stolen plutonium, and that obviously
Yeah,
comes back with the
exactly.
terrorist later.
And the clock with the guy hanging off the clock face, setting it
Hmm.
up for later. It's brilliantly done. It's so perfectly constructed. This whole film, it really just is unmatched. And it's also, when I think of the 80s, it's the film I think of first, I've got to say.
Oh yeah, I mean, Channel 4, Stittsville, and yeah, right.
Yeah. It's kind of it's funny to think that, because obviously the majority of it is set in the 50s. But yeah, I do, it just it's yeah. They also make a very wise choice to not dwell on the relationship, the how it is that a teenager is best friends with like an old man. They don't dwell on it.
Yeah, true. Like they don't need to. I mean, we've all become very immature over the years, so yeah.
Yeah,
That's why you don't. That's why this won't get a remake because
yeah,
can't sell that to the studio now. I mean, in when they were trying to pitch this to Disney, they didn't like the idea of Lorraine being in love with her own son. They didn't like the incest
yeah,
jokes. But nowadays, if you tried to sell this type of film to a studio, it'd be like an old man and a teenager being best friends. That's not right.
yeah. It's funny as well, because that you bring that up with the Lorraine thing. I remember this was on an episode of Gogglebox a few years ago, and I remember the people were saying, "Oh, this hasn't aged well," when she kisses him at the end, and I'm a bit like, well, it's not played as something that you should find, I don't know,
Attractive. Yeah.
attractive. Yeah, it's like played as a, oh my god, this is so wrong, and it's
Unless
played as
you're
that. It's not. Yeah.
unless you're Emperor Caligula and Drusilla, then fine.
Well, there you go. That's so clever as well. The ride through the town, just
Mm,
again perfectly setting up. These shots that hold just long enough for you to remember them. That when they come back later in the 50s, you can go, "Oh yeah, that's how it looks now."
hmm. Exactly, yeah. But it doesn't shove it in your face. It's very subtle.
Yeah. It's also funny because if you were to make this film now, it would have to be a teenager going back to the 80s.
Probably, yeah.
Um, it's yeah, that kind of blows my mind a little bit, but
Yeah, when I went to see the stage version, I went to LFCC the following day, and Christopher Lloyd was
oh,
there.
oh,
I didn't get
nice.
to meet him because just way too expensive. But I know
Oh yeah.
they were doing photo options of you could get a photo with him next to the DeLorean, which is pretty
Oh,
cool.
nice. Yeah, he's always doing conventions. He's still very active and stuff. When I was a kid, I thought he died because obviously in these films they do such a good job at making him look like an older guy.
They do.
So before I kind of got onto the internet and I was watching these films when I was really young, I was just like, oh, he must be dead now.
Hmm.
And I must say as well, as a kid, the character of Marty McFly was like the coolest person I'd ever seen. Um,
Hmm.
and I just, yeah, and that kind of, I still think he's one of the coolest characters in film.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And I mean, there's going to be a lot of times in this commentary where we miss stuff because it's such a dense film.
Hmm.
Like, the Huey Lewis cameo there as the teacher. Um,
Hmm.
there's going to be a lot of stuff where we just miss it because it is so kind of dense
There's
and yeah,
campaigns here saying re-elect Mayor Goldie Wilson, and the
yeah,
guy in the cafe Sharp Marty says, "That's right, he's going to be mayor."
Yeah, Mayor.
Also, is this where the origin of the distracted boyfriend meme came from?
Possibly. I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Then again, it just seems to be a stock image everyone uses, and not that image of where it's
Yeah.
actually from.
Which Jennifer do you prefer, Claudia Wells or Elizabeth Shue?
It is kind of hard to say, but
Hmm.
yeah, I think Elizabeth Shue was sadly stuck with a pretty
Yeah.
naff wig, just giving her
Yeah.
a really big forehead. She's got great
It's
comedic
funny.
timing, Elizabeth Shue.
She really does. It's funny because you never kind of we never Claudia Wells doesn't really have much of a role in this, so it's hard to judge
Mm,
between the two because she doesn't get
yeah.
a chance to really do much, Whereas Elizabeth Shue's in the second one a hell of a lot. So
Hmm. Oh yeah,
gotta
the
say as
clock
well,
tower. Hmm.
yeah, it's kind of amazing that Michael J. Fox is as good in this film as he is, given his working schedule at the time.
Yeah, he was doing Family Ties like in the morning and then this at night.
Yeah,
Oh,
he had like
must have
4 hours
been
of sleep. um, I watched it came out last year, the Michael J. Fox documentary that he did,
hard.
and it is incredible. It's one of the best documentaries I think I've ever seen. The way it's kind of edited, and he tells the story of his life at the time, and it just sounds absolutely manic.
Hmm.
Like what he was doing, but yeah, he's incredible, and obviously it's so sad what has happened to him now. But he's still getting out there when he can. He's still doing
I know he's
what he
doing
can, and
conventions still, yeah. Hmm.
yeah, it's sad. In the documentary, he said like, if I'm still here in 10 years, I'll either be a vegetable or I'll be cured.
Bloody
Um,
hell.
yeah, it's yeah. But he's such a his story is so like inspirational and fascinating as well. He's such a cool guy. I love Michael J. Fox.
Hmm.
And of course, in 2015 when it was the anniversary, he returned to the role in like on talk shows and things, and
He did,
there was a
yeah.
lot of celebrations going on that year, and it was great. It was really good fun.
And it's so funny. You've got these young actors in their 20s playing
Yeah,
people in their 40s, but they really sell it.
they really do. And like now, you kind of do notice the makeup, but as a kid, it
Yeah.
just didn't. And I guess because as I've grown older, I've seen these actors in other things as well. You do notice it, but as a kid, having not seen these actors in anything else, I just bought it. I was just like, oh yeah, these are older people, and it works really well, and the makeup is really impressive, and they shoot it really well. It's never like got harsh light on it. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, Crispin Glover is here being Crispin Glover, who is
So
a
here it's
weird
the
guy.
yeah, because here it's Biff bullying George. Because when
Mm,
we go back, we find 30 years ago that's where it all started, and nothing's really
yeah,
changed. But I like how differently the actors play it. Where here it's just like Biff verbally walking all over him, being like, "McFly, come on, you gotta understand. I can't.
yeah,
It was your car and things like that. It was your accident." Whereas, obviously, when they were teenagers, it was more physical. Because when you're an adult,
yeah,
you don't get
exactly.
really physically bullying people. But
That's a
yeah,
good
it's
point.
good.
Yeah,
And the ironic
I
thing
got
about Crispin Glover, I know for the second film he wanted more money because he didn't like what they had offered him,
yeah,
and rather than give him more money, they recast him, got sued for using his likeness, and that cost them more money than what they were willing to pay him.
Yeah, and
Irony.
actually, when you do watch the second one, it's so obvious. The makeup job on him is on the actor that they got to replace him is so scary.
McClure, Jimmy Olsen.
Hey, there he is. A regular actor in these commentaries, it seems.
Yeah,
I actually think Leah Thompson's makeup may be the best.
yeah, definitely.
I mean, they all look great, but
Yeah, and I love the joke about Uncle Joey not making parole, and then
yeah.
when you go to Lorraine's house, you see a baby in a playpen, and they're like, "Oh, Joey loves being in his playpen. He cries every time we take him out."
Yeah.
And I think the funny thing is, Michael J. Fox is a couple of months older than Crispin Glover and
Yeah, he
Leah
is.
Thompson.
Crispin Glover is incredible in this film, but it's such a strange, it's such a weird performance, and I mean, that's just him. The year before this, he was in a Friday the 13th, and he's fucking bizarre in that as well. He's just such an odd guy.
Yeah.
And this kind of took the world by storm when it came out. It was one of the biggest. It's so iconic, but it's genuinely one of the biggest hits of the 80s as well, just in terms of how many people saw it. It went
The
massive.
highest grossing film of 80. Yeah, it was actually the highest grossing film of 1985.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it's just like the peak of the 80s, and it's so like it's almost a bit of a satire as well, like how run down everything is in the kind of the Reagan era.
Mhm.
Is just so like over commercialized as well, and it's
Yeah, apparently when Ronald Reagan saw the film, and obviously they reference him in this, Ronald Reagan, the actor.
yeah.
Apparently when he watched it, he was like, "Stop, play that again, please."
Of course, wasn't the original idea for the time traveling vehicle a fridge as well?
Something like that, yeah.
It was something mad like that, yeah.
Apparently DeLoreans are crap cars.
Oh, they're terrible. Like everyone, you know, always wants one when they see this, but apparently they're just the worst. Like they're always breaking down. Like yeah, and I think that's part of the joke, isn't it? Where he says, "Well, if I'm going to build a time machine, then I'm going to do it in style," and it's a DeLorean.
Mm. Funnily enough, if you watch this on TV pre-Watershed, they cut Doc's line of when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit.
Yeah,
So if you're watching it on TV, that line is cut. So him going 88 miles per hour
yeah.
makes no sense. It's like, okay, what was special about 88 miles per hour?
There's also a cut that aired on TV in the 90s 2000s where they dub it over, so it's like
Oh,
you're going to see some serious stuff.
God.
Yeah, it's funny. Every time I have seen this playing on TV, they always cut so much out of it, and I'm always just like, what is the point? Like, why even air it if you're going to edit it like that?
Exactly. Heck, I'm surprised these films are still PG with the amount of
I'm
language they have.
There's quite a lot, and I remember thinking that as a kid. So my parents showed me this as a kid, like they showed me all three of them, and I loved them. And I'm talking when I was like 7 years old or something. And I remember thinking
Wow.
at the time, oh my god, this is a lot of language, and I think my parents were a bit taken aback,
Mm,
because it's just little things. But yeah, I'm shocked these are still a PG. I really am. I guess it's
yeah.
the tone because they're very light and fluffy, aren't they? I guess that's why it's.
Just a reminder, this is a PG, but something like Sing 2, that's a PG as well.
Yeah.
The rating system is just now a joke.
Oh, it really is.
I remember this became a meme in 2020 when it's Doc setting the destination and he's like, whatever you do, don't go to the year 2020. No, that's a horrible year.
Well, didn't Michael J. Fox appear in a music video? I can't remember who it was, but it was like he appears at the end and he's like, "Hey, whatever you do, don't go to 2020." Well, it was something like
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Well, how proud the trilogy is dogs are named after famous scientists like
Yes.
Einstein, Copernicus.
It's a nice running bit. I mean, to be honest, even though the films were shot, but 4 or 5 years apart from each other, they all feel very
They do,
they
very
feel
seamless.
like one
Yeah.
whole piece. Certainly the sequels. Yeah.
Mhm. There is a difference in the stage version of Doc's supposed death in 1985. So in the film,
Okay.
he's shot by terrorists, but in the stage version, he touches plutonium without wearing protective gloves and dies of
Oh,
radiation poisoning.
really?
Yeah, that's the
Huh.
difference in the stage version.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess it makes sense because the terrorist thing that has maybe aged, you
Yeah.
know, a little bit. Like it's who do
Also, I
you
think it's
think
the
the
technicalities of
Libyans?
doing, yeah, the
Yeah,
technicalities of doing a car chase on stage.
sure, yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting that the yeah. I think after 9/11, this was the whole terrorist thing was kind of cut down as much as
Hmm.
possible on TV.
Yeah, probably. 800 miles per hour.
It's funny as well. Oliver Harper said this in his video about this film, but it's you kind of tend to think of it as this big effects heavy film, but there's not many like big special effects sequences at all, and they all look really
Yeah,
good.
that's true. Hmm.
It's literally just the shots of the DeLorean, and then towards the end you get Marty's hand disappearing, which has always looked a bit dodgy, but
I think the most visual effects heavy of the trilogy is probably part two.
oh, 100%, yeah, that's part two is full of it.
Hmm. The head of Universal didn't like the title Back to the Future. He wanted to call it Spaceman from Pluto.
Yeah, Spaceman from Pluto, which okay.
I think Christopher Lloyd was one of the names being thrown about for the role of the Eighth Doctor in 1996.
Oh, really? I mean, that
Yeah,
would have been something.
or when they were trying to do that Doctor Who movie in the early 90s
Yeah,
with Leonard Nimoy. I think one of his names was being thrown around.
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Maybe he would have appeared in the series if it had gone to series.
Mm,
In fact, hey, maybe he would have been Ulysses, the Doctor's father, in that version of
probably, yeah.
the canon. Yeah.
Actually, if you are ever going to remake Back to the Future, the person I'd cast as Doc Brown is Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, that would be pretty. That would be pretty
I
good.
think that's a good choice.
I am just happy that it is just left as it is. I think it's remembered better as a result, because the amount of times now that they've
Yeah, because
yeah,
I get this explain everything as if responding kind of valid criticism,
yeah,
and the common well, it's a bit of a joke, but I don't think it's gotten too bad. Like the common criticism is, why don't Lorraine and George recognize Marty as Calvin
yeah,
Klein at the end? I'm like, I don't care.
yeah, and I never really bought that, to be honest, because it just.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a person that they met at high school who was in their lives for a couple of days 30 years ago.
Exactly.
You're not going to remember what they
Hmm.
look like exactly.
Yeah.
Plus, even if they did, like, they know that that's their son. So that
Mm.
even if they did, it'd just be like, oh, he kind of looks like that guy we met. Like,
Yeah,
that'd be
true.
the extent of it. It would. It's so funny as well, because this could so easily be quite a dull exposition dump sequence, but it's so fun to watch because it's just so beautifully done and written and performed. It's great.
It is, yeah. I know there was a Back to the Future animated series, wasn't there?
Yes, yeah, which I've seen a bit of, and it's all right. It's sort of what you'd expect from a cartoon animated series from that era. Because there were loads of them, based on films from the 80s. The real Ghostbusters, you had Beetlejuice, the animated series, The Mask, the animated
Yeah, yeah.
series. It's a very kind of that era.
Yep.
I like, I love Christopher Lloyd's reactions to, like, did you rip that off?
Yeah, in the stage version, this is how he dies.
Okay.
Doesn't forgets to wear his gloves and touches the raw plutonium, which kills him.
I mean, yeah, that would kill you.
Well, I know the original. Uh, they asked Michael J. Fox to play Marty, but he said, "No, I'm too busy doing Family Ties." But so they went to Eric Stoltz and filmed
Yeah.
quite a bit with him, didn't they?
They filmed a hell of a lot with him, and people are always like, oh, release all the footage. And they've released a bit of it. But Bob Gale's sort of been like, well, he's got a career. If we release that footage, he's just going to forever be known as the person who was almost in Back to the Future. That's going to,
Yeah,
like,
true.
that's just going to be his career. It just seems
Mhm.
disrespectful to release the footage, and that's fair enough. I mean, he still is in the film very briefly. If when he punches Biff in the diner later, the person punching Biff is Eric Stoltz. If you go through it frame by frame, you can kind of tell. But yeah, I mean, it's like I say, it's a real miracle this film came together as well as it did, because replacing your lead like a couple of weeks into production is, yeah.
Often it's a recipe for disaster, but yeah, you just can't
Mm.
imagine anyone else playing Marty McFly.
Would you believe it if I told you that the Eric Stoltz recasting was a plot point in The Flash?
What?
Yeah. It's a running gag that the reason they know they're in a different universe is because Eric Stoltz is Marty in that universe.
Mm,
In
wow.
a gag that really works if you know your movie trivia, but so many people
hmm
were just going, what? Like, so many people were visibly confused when I saw it in the cinema.
Since you've told me that, I think I've now got this image of the head of DC walking into a cinema saying, "How do you do, fellow kids?"
Oh, I know.
It reeks of that type of mentality. How do you
Yeah,
do,
it
fellow
really
movie
does.
kids?
Yeah, this is maybe the part of the film that's aged the worst. Is the
Yeah, the whole terrorist thing.
yeah, the racially ambiguous terrorists.
hmm I mean, you could argue that the stage musical is the remake.
Yeah, there you go. That
'Cause
works.
it follows it pretty much follows the same plot. There's just differences
Yeah,
here and there to make it suitable for the stage. So there you go. There's your remake. We don't need to
and
touch it.
keep it as that. I mean, we did
Yeah.
get a fourth film in the form of the game that came out, 2013, I think it came out, and that that had Christopher Lloyd as Doc and everything, and it's kind of
Also,
if you
Back
want.
to the Future ride at Universal, wasn't there?
There was, yes, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
Biff sends you on a mad voyage through time because he wrecks the DeLorean or something. Yeah,
I think the Simpsons ride replaced it.
yeah, I think it did. And the Simpsons ride is pretty epic.
It is. I've
You
been
know,
on it. It's really cool. Yeah.
it's really cool.
Also, Alan Silvestri's score is just
Oh yeah, I
incredible.
can't believe we
Yeah.
haven't mentioned it yet. Yeah, I mean it's one of the most iconic movie themes, isn't it?
hmm The first time I ever watched this trilogy was in it was the summer of 2014. I'd finished high
Oh,
school and Sky Movies was showing them on consecutive days. So
oh, nice.
yeah, yeah, I just watched each one on a consecutive day. And it was
Oh, that's
cool
cool.
because, part one and two end on a cliffhanger, so it's like, oh, I can't wait for tomorrow to see how this all ends.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool. That's probably a really good way to watch them. Yeah.
it is, yeah, really cool way.
I can't remember how far apart I watched them. I know yeah, we had the DVD set as a kid, and like I say, my parents showed it to me. I can't remember how. I don't think it was we left it that long between them to watch them. But yeah.
I love the coincidence comedy you've got here. Like, he just happens
Yeah.
to be wearing the same suit and having the same vehicle as what this kid's comic is
Yeah.
to convince his parents it's an alien.
You mutating bastard! You space bastard! It's bastard. They love bastard. That's the word they love using in this
Yeah.
in this film. We've heard it like 5 times already.
So it's weird. The first couple of seasons of Family Guy, they'll say bastard a lot, and that'll get them a 15.
Yeah.
Like, later seasons I can get because they drop the F bomb a lot, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't get how the first three seasons of Family Guy are a 15.
No, I don't.
The worst swear word they say is bastard.
Yeah, it's quite tame. Early Family Guy, well, relatively,
Yeah.
versus what it became.
hmm
Also, the Twin Pines Mall, Lone Pine Mall gag.
It
So,
is, yeah.
Twin Pines Mall at the start, Marty destroys the tree there, and then when he goes back at the end, it says Lone Pine Mall,
Yeah,
which
little
is
details like that are terrific.
yeah, That woman
Going
screaming.
radiation is like, don't stop.
Yeah, I've always it's quite funny how over the top her reaction is.
Hmm. No wonder DeLoreans are rubbish if you can push them that easily.
I know, yeah, I always think that. This is so well shot. This whole,
Yeah, it's a
you know,
brilliant reveal shot of
it
like
really is.
the proper in. Oh, Ronald Reagan on a poster.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's such a great like bit of set design as well, though, isn't it? Because it's being able to redress this set as easily as they were able to.
Yeah, and the attention to detail in all three films to make it
Mm,
is really commendable.
yeah, and of course this set already existed because the year before it was used as the town from Gremlins. Um, and every time I watch Gremlins, you get this big wide shot of the town. I'm always like, "Hey, that's Hill Valley." Complete with like the in Gremlins, the cinemas in the same space, and they go into it, and it's like, wait, hang on a minute, shouldn't Marty McFly be crashing into that in a minute?
Yeah.
Because I believe that set is still there on the Universal backlot. I could be wrong, but I
Oh
think it's
no.
still.
1955. I love how Marty is completely out of place with his fashion as well, because they all
Yeah,
say, what's with the life preserver? Doc thinks he's gonna drown. Yeah.
and
Hey kid,
again,
what'd you do?
it's yeah. It's funny as well. I never caught the watch beeping as a kid when the guy looks at him
Mhm.
and he looks all panicked as a kid. I was like, wait, why is he panicked there?
Having because their watch is completely out of place.
Yeah,
I love small like this in it. Like, give me a tab. I can if you don't order
I
anything.
know.
I mean, was a tab a fizzy drink or something?
Yeah, tabs are like sodas. Yeah, and again, it took me eight because I don't think we really have tabs in the UK. Certainly not
Yeah.
anymore. And it took me ages to realise that was the gag.
Hmm. For me, it's this. When I first watched it, it was this scene where I was like, so this what the I get what this film's trying to be.
Yeah,
Because, it's literally the same scene from earlier or later, should you say, in terms of time travel, where it's Biff bullying George.
it's brilliantly done.
Yeah. In fact, you could sum up the entire trilogy in that one scene where it's the running joke of history repeating itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Billy Zane is one of his henchmen.
Yeah, Billy's at wish. Yeah,
I'll say this:
He's
Billy Zane would make a perfect Lex Luthor.
yeah, he kind of would, wouldn't he? Yeah, he really
Yeah,
would actually.
definitely.
It's funny too. I generally reaction videos on YouTube can be hit or miss for me, but
Yeah,
watching people watch this trilogy for the first time is so much fun.
I bet
People do
it is.
reaction
Yeah.
videos on YouTube, and like because they're such crowd pleasing films, so when you see people make videos reacting to them, it is really like this is cool to see people like because obviously I know them so well, and I think we all know them so well. See people who don't know them is so
Mm.
fun.
I just realised why he's called Goldie. He's got a gold tooth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, here we're about to discover how Marty sees his parents as teenagers and
Mm.
how they contrast to him as a teenager. Like, George is a huge pushover. Lorraine's kind of a um, promiscuous, shall we say?
Yeah, she's very
always,
promiscuous.
always
Yeah,
chasing after boys and looking for that perfect
yeah,
dreamboat boy. And it's a complete contrast to Marty because it all stemmed from the idea of Bob Gale finding his dad's school report once and
yeah,
debating, would I have been friends with my parents if I knew them in high school?
yeah. That was the whole conceit, wasn't it? Before any of the other stuff was in place, it was that kind of conceit that was the big driving force behind the script, and it's a wicked concept. It's one of those things that's
Hmm.
amazing that it hadn't really been done before this.
Yeah. Another? How often does
I
this
know.
happen?
Yeah.
I like how you're completely in Marty's head here. When you first watch this, you think, "Oh, cool, he saved his dad's life." But then when you
Yeah.
go back and listen to Lorraine say, "Oh, that's how we met," you think, "Oh shit, he's just made the biggest mistake ever." 1955, 1985, 1885.
This is fun. Seeing this get like redone in every film in the trilogy is brilliant.
It is, yeah. I think Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis have said, um, how come how come there's so many Lorraine and Marty lookalikes? I think he said, "Oh,
Yeah.
McFly's and Baines are naturally attracted to each other. That's why they keep throughout history."
Yeah, and he definitely has the dominant gene as well because you look at the kids in the second one
Oh
and they
yeah.
all look like him. That's such a good gag as well, the Calvin Klein gag. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
simple, but it's so fun.
hmm I love that running gag of the mask of assuming he's a sailor because of what he's
I
wearing.
know. And of course, Lorraine's mum here is, speaking of the Gremlins connection, she was the mum in Gremlins the year prior. So it's another
Ah,
connection.
right.
Jailbird Joey.
Oh god. Imagine saying that to a baby.
I know.
There you go, that's kid. If you remade this today, you'd have Marty say, "Oh, this is cool. I saw it on Netflix." What's on
Yeah.
Netflix?
God, I remember after Spider-Man: Homecoming came out, and it was all like, "You need to remake Back to the Future with Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr." And it was just like, oh,
Like, no, like they're great actors, but
yeah,
no. It's funny. Robert Zemeckis remade Pinocchio.
yeah. Which
Uh,
I didn't see it,
that
but apparently
baffles
it
me
was
that was
awful.
made. Yeah, I've not
Mm.
seen it because I don't really want to, but it
Yeah,
just from the clips that I've seen of it, I'm like, this does not feel like a Robert Zemeckis film at all.
he's really gone a weird place with his career. I don't know what he's
hmm
doing these days.
Well, he was obsessed with like motion capture films with Polar Express and A Christmas Carol
Yeah,
quite recently, but yeah, don't know what else he's doing now.
he's not doing a huge amount. Like you say, those motion capture things died on their asses. Although I've got a soft
Yeah,
spot for the Christmas Carol one, but
yeah. Naturally, I'm soft towards Polar Express, having been in it, but
yeah, of course.
um, hmm
I've not watched that in a few years. We sort of it became a
yeah.
Christmas tradition for like every year, and then we just kind of stopped. Um, I might go back to that this year though.
I mean, the author of the original Polar Express book, he makes so much money from those
Oh yeah,
interactive train rides that occur across the UK and America as well. Yeah, he makes so much. He just has to
I'm
sit
not
and
surprised.
let the checks come through the post.
Yeah,
Love that line. You're a kid in extra, whale to Sonia. And there's
I
also
know.
nice other lines as well that shows the difference in time periods because he says, "Oh yeah, it's next to John F. Kennedy Drive." Who the hell is John F. Kennedy?
It's
Which I
so good.
think, yeah, he was only 5 years away from being elected. I think JFK.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't long away.
Yeah.
Also, as a kid, I didn't realize that there was like no makeup on Christopher Lloyd in the past versus the future. Um,
Yeah, so how old is Doc Brown? Is he supposed to be 35 here and so he's 65 in 1985?
I guess because when he sees the footage later, he's like, "Look at me, I'm an old man." So yeah, I guess 30s, early 40s, maybe.
Yeah, despite the fact he was 4'6" when he played Doc Brown.
Yeah. Also, how did people fake photos back in '55? Because he says, "Oh, photographic alter." You know what?
Yeah,
How
true.
did that work
No idea.
before Photoshop? He's got such a nice house though. Like it's a big garden and everything.
Yeah.
Got to wonder where he's getting his money from.
Yeah, because not a lot of his inventions seem to work or get him any particular fame.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't seem to have a job.
Yeah, I'm
You want
looking
to talk about?
at Bob Zemeckis' filmography. His most recent film was Pinocchio, but he has got another film called Here coming out.
Okay, I'm always interested in
Yeah,
what he does. It's just a shame he has gone like. There's a great video by
the
Patrick Willems
Witcher's
on YouTube.
remake as well.
The what? Sorry.
The Witcher's remake, based on the
Did
Roald
he?
Dahl book.
Oh my
He
god! I didn't
directed
know he
that.
did that. Jesus, I did
Yeah.
not know he did that. That's mental. Yeah, there's a brilliant video on YouTube called the sad story of Robert Zemeckis and his wonderful toys. And it's brilliant. It's about like how he's always been kind of held back by trying to chase technology, and held back by the newest fad and everything. It's a brilliant video. I really recommend it.
Yeah, that's definitely a way of putting it because even in a film like Forrest Gump, that was like one of the first films to predominantly use CGI,
Yeah,
basically using archive footage to make it look like they're talking to Forrest Gump.
well, yeah, and at the time, that's like it was incredible.
Yeah, pretty revolutionary, but you look at it now and like the lip movements look
Oh,
pretty naff.
yeah,
Congratulations, how do you feel? I believe you said he had to pee.
yeah, and it's the John Lennon one as well.
Well, it's easy if you try, Dick.
Easy if you tried, eh?
You know John Lennon was Scouse, not Cockney, right?
I know, yeah. No religion too. I'm anxiously awaiting what how the Beatles are going to sound in Doctor Who in a few weeks.
Well, didn't that actor playing Ringo respond to
Yeah,
criticism
that
on
was so
TikTok? Something
funny.
like that.
That was
Yeah,
hilarious.
like this guy doesn't even look like Ringo.
To be honest, I mean, none of them really looked like the Beatles, but out of all of them, I thought he had the most. He had the Ringo look about him.
Yeah, I love that line of like, plutonium may be easy to buy in the
I
80s
know.
because they all assumed that this was the mid 50s. Like, Cold War was, the threat of
Oh
nuclear war was
yeah.
like there at this point.
Again, it's that kind of thing. There is the revisionism for kind of eras gone past, isn't there? Because in the '80s, '50s nostalgia was a massive deal, and obviously in the last few years, '80s nostalgia has been the big thing. Um,
Uh,
and it's interesting how people forget a lot of the kind of really quite horrific shit that did go down in those decades. Um, and they kind of just focus on the great pop culture that came out of it. And I sort of wonder if it will be the same in a few years with the decade that we're living in now, and also the 2010s, because obviously so much shit has happened in
I'd
the last few
argue,
years.
yeah, I'd argue in the 2020s now, we're probably most nostalgic for the 90s.
Yeah, it's getting that way now, isn't it? It's getting that way. And again, like the 90s weren't exactly like a time of bliss.
Mm.
I don't know. I just sort of think, are people in 30 years going to be going, oh, I was born in the wrong decade. I should have been born in the 2020s, you know, with I don't know, Taylor Swift and Rick and Morty, and that's more of a 2010s thing, but you know what I mean, like whatever is popular now, is that going to be like big, cultural nostalgia for that in however many years time? Like how big is that going to be, even though it's like a really horrific time for the world right now? I don't know, it's an interesting thought. I've always kind of thought about that, and this definitely plays into it here.
Definitely, yeah. I like the evolution of Doc and Marty's relationship because here, Doc's like the voice of logic and reason, saying, "You can't leave this house. Anything you say could have future
Yes.
repercussions." Whereas in part three, Marty's the voice of reason.
Oh yeah, it's brilliantly done. It's, I mean, there's a reason why the relationship and the chemistry and the pairing is so kind of celebrated, because it is, you want to talk about perfect chemistry, these two, it's
Hmm.
it's it's just dynamite whenever they're on screen together.
Yeah.
This is hilarious as well. Maybe you were adopted.
Okay, ever have hair?
Slacker.
I'm just amazed he stayed at the same school for 30
Yeah.
years.
I mean, how old is he meant to be here versus the 80s? Again, is it like 30s? You know,
Maybe,
it would. I guess it would make sense. There's one
a cut
line from.
scene where,
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say, there's a cut scene of like, um, Marty watching Lorraine in class and watching her cheat at a test or something.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it just adds to that thing of like, you view your parents as like perfect, never having to make mistakes, but nah, they're all
Yes.
human like the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's
They would definitely do the things that um, they encourage us not to do.
oh, 100%, especially as teenagers. Yeah, I think that's why
Yeah.
this film has kind of lasted, is because it's such a universal concept. Everyone has that
It is,
feeling.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there's this one line from Doc coming up that I've never quite bought. I think it's maybe a step too far into him being sort of aloof, and it's when he's like, "Oh, it's a ceremonial dancing mating ritual or something." I've forgotten what the line is, um, but that's always been a little bit of a step too far for me. Oh, I love this scene in the cafeteria. It's great.
Yeah.
It's funny as well because you can buy you George McFly isn't like ugly, but you can absolutely buy that he is that outcast. Just
Yeah,
in the performance
definitely.
and how awkward he is and
Because it
how
lets
weird his
people
mannerisms
walk
are.
all over him and
Yeah,
doesn't have the confidence. fulfill his dreams of writing, of
Yeah,
like publishing his stories. Because if anything, despite Martin McFly being the main character, it feels the first film does feel like George's story.
it definitely does. And again, it's such a universal concept, universal idea that everyone kind of relate to in some way. And this film is such it's a perfect balance between being a real kind of crowd pleaser, but also just being a damn fine film, like so well written, and it's elements like that that really bring that home for me.
Hmm. Because it's a nice, might be a nice analogy for what George has is like imposter syndrome because
Yeah, definitely.
he got, it's like in the future we first see, he got the girl, but you could tell like, I was never meant to have you. It was just an accident and things like that. But
Yeah, yeah,
in the past here, with the help of Marty, he's able to create that future that that he believes he deserves to have.
yeah, 100%.
I mean, maybe that's why Crispin Glover felt he should have had more screen time in the sequel and
Yeah,
had more pace. But like, because he felt like the first film was as much his story as Marty and Doc's story as well.
because didn't he also have a problem with the first film, kind of rewarding the characters through money as well? Like he didn't like that morally. He thought it was a bit cynical.
So yeah. Hmm.
Just it's like the body language that he has as well. It's just this weird like
Yeah.
spacey, like he feels like an alien, to be honest.
I love that line. Not you or anyone else on this planet is going to change
Yeah.
my mind. So naturally, I'll dress up as an alien. But imagine there's a, because obviously he introduces himself as Darth Vader. I wonder
Yeah.
if in his science fiction storybook he wrote about Darth Vader. So, so this is my successful science fiction book. I mean, there was a fellow called George Lucas who tried to sue me over copyright, but I won in the end.
Silence, Earth, man. Like I love the voice that he puts on.
Yeah,
It's so smart as well. Like, because of
yeah. Of
course this would work. Of course, for
course,
somebody
George would
like
believe
George.
it.
Yeah. Although I still don't quite know how he broke into the house, but
Well, there is an actual deleted scene of him
oh,
leaving the
okay.
house and Doc picking him up or something like that.
Oh, nice.
I also think, yeah, Crispin Glover, this was like one of his first films, and playing a nervous character like George was perfect because he apparently was
Mm.
really nervous during
Yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah. Yeah, well, like you say, he was in Friday the 13th the year before this, and he's fucking weird in that. If you ever get a chance, look up a clip of him dancing in that film, and it's quite infamous because he has these weird dance moves that he does in it, and it's bizarre. Yeah, it's this scene coming up where you can just about see Eric Stoltz. Um, yeah, Because of course, much of the scenes featuring the characters on their own when Marty isn't there were part of the original shoot when Eric Stoltz was on board. They had to
And that makes
reshoot
sense.
around it,
Yeah.
and that's kind of
Hmm.
it's seamless. My density.
I love that. Identity.
Leah Thompson she's always happy to kind of get involved with the trilogy as well these days. She's quite active still in the fandom and everything.
Hmm.
And she's had a pretty great career as well. She's been in a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, her agent said you're only ever going to play virgins, whores, and
Yep.
mothers. And
Right.
Leah Thompson said, in this film, I got to play all three, which is true.
She's a director as well, isn't she? She's directed a lot of like sitcoms and things.
Hmm.
This is so good. Again, it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, he just invented the skateboard.
Yeah.
It's the film kind of having its cake and eating it.
Yeah.
Because, of course, you've got to make jokes like that. You've got to in a time travel thing.
Hmm. Yeah. Eric Stoltz, he was quite method as an actor.
Yeah,
Yeah, he insisted that even when the cameras weren't rolling, everyone addressed him as Marty.
right. Yeah. Well, wasn't he like playing it as quite a serious drama instead of the comedic tone that it does
So,
have?
I think so. Yeah.
And that was kind of part of the problem. Because Eric Stoltz, again,
Yeah.
he's been in loads of things, and he's a good actor, but he's a very kind of dramatic actor. He's not he doesn't
Hmm.
yeah. I think it was just a case of being miscast rather than as opposed to anything else.
Yeah. True.
Spot the stunt double as well, by the way, with Biff and his cronies.
Yeah, you can.
Not quite as bad as Roger Moore in A View to a Kill, but
I mean, watching all three films, you have to wonder, there's so many shit trucks in this
yeah,
town
I was gonna say, how much manure does this
over the
tank have?
years.
Yeah, like she said, I'm gonna find out. The guy behind her, the guy who works at the diners, just looks at her like, what the fuck? They really get the most out of this drama between those two as well. The fact that he knows he's gonna die and everything. It's brilliantly done. It really is.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Hmm. No, Christopher Lloyd said if he was allowed to, uh, you know, pitch a Back to the Future film, he'd have them travel back to ancient Rome.
That would be pretty fun. Obviously, because there's so
Yeah,
much potential for it. From yeah,
I bet it'd be 185 AD.
yeah, and obviously you'd have to do all the classic moments as well, wouldn't you? You'd have to do the "Hey McFly,"
Hey, McFlyus!
yeah. That's such a lovely character trait as well. When he's like, "Excuse the crudity of the model. I didn't have time to build it to scale."
Mm-hmm.
His reaction to the
What?
fire as well.
My rags!
'She's tracked you down." Like little bits, little lines from Doc that are just so kind of more over the top than they should be. It's just so well done.
Definitely,
All
yeah.
the characters have such a distinct voice. Like, not no one character talks the same as another one, and yeah.
hmm 21st, that's always officially Back to the Future Day, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even though, should it technically be November 5th? Because that's when Marty back in.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. Yeah, exactly. Also, I always say this. We get to the dance a lot quicker than I think we do in my head. Um, I always feel like there's more of this stuff, but
Mhm.
yeah, the dance takes up quite a significant amount of the film, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
All these people have such nice houses. I've got to say, like even George's
Yeah.
house there. It's got a nice like little garden and
It's the 50s. It's like everyone had a nice house.
yeah.
Interestingly enough, when Eric Stoltz was replaced, they called Tom Wilson and said over the phone and said, "I'm afraid we have bad news," and apparently immediately started crying, saying, "Oh no, I've been fired, haven't I?
Oh
No!" And he's like, "No, we
really?
fired Eric." Yeah, and he's
That's
like,
funny.
"Oh, okay, cool."
That's funny.
Because they had to obviously they had to extend everyone's contract to shoot the scenes with him and Michael J. Fox, so they were
Yeah.
happy they were getting paid more.
And of course, it's this undercurrent of drama that runs throughout with the, not being able to tell him and stuff is this wonderful kind of surge of momentum for the film that I think works really, really well.
Hmm. Wasn't there also a cut scene where Marty thinks he's gonna grow up to be gay or something?
There was something like I'm glad they cut it. I'm very glad they cut it.
Yeah, because
Because
it
it
just
doesn't
seems
quite
really
work.
odd. Like, why is that now a problem? I
Yeah.
mean, why is that now a problem? Now, in 1985, Doc's dog is called Einstein, and funnily enough, the
Mm.
year 1955 is the year Albert Einstein died.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
So,
that's
was
quite
that
good.
supposed to be because it
Yeah.
was the year Doc Brown got the idea for the DeLorean, so was that supposed to be a tribute to Albert Einstein?
Yeah, I guess so. Marvin Berry and the Starlighters. These,
Hmm.
yeah. This is definitely my favorite part of the film. This whole bit is just magical.
Yeah, you mentioned like how people were nostalgic for the 50s, and I think it was like the 70s and the 80s with films like Grease and probably this that made people nostalgic for those times.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, most likely, yeah. One of my favorite bits is coming up when she's like, sometimes you sound just like my mother, and just the quick cut to him looking at her is so good.
Yeah, like you don't
Oh,
expect your own mother to say that to you. And also, when she asks why shouldn't I drink, maybe, maybe he was about to originally say because you might get fat, or it's like might regret it later in life. Yeah, you mentioned like obviously can't see the footage, but we've mentioned like Eric Stoltz took it a bit too seriously, like a drama. So
yeah,
maybe just little moments like that that Michael J. Fox adds like weren't in his scenes, which I think is what
yeah.
yeah is
I,
what the magic of the film lacked. I think maybe with Eric Stoltz.
I agree, and I think you can see that because it's like, I mean, again in the documentary, a lot of the stuff they go on, they talk about is how much Michael J. Fox brought to his role on Family Ties, and it was little things that he did that really made him kind of the star of that show. Um, so yeah.
I know later on in his career, because of Parkinson's, he moved into voice acting, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He's in like Stuart Little and things like that, yeah.
Hmm.
His last big film role was The Frighteners, I believe.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the first film I saw Michael J. Fox in was Stuart Little, probably.
Oh, nice.
My brother.
His face is so good. And then obviously the bit, it's just, it's beautifully written. It's so well done.
Hmm. His car damage cost $300. That must have been like
Yeah,
300,000 in the 50s.
I was gonna say because if my car got wrecked like that and I had to pay 300 quid, I'd be like, bloody hell, that was better than I thought it'd be.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I got a brick dropped on my car from a nearby building site, and I
Oh
was just,
God.
I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake. And it was all covered, but by the insurance and everything. But I just remember thinking, Christ, it took out my wing mirror completely. I was just driving along, and just a brick fell out of the sky, and I was just like, fucking hell, how often does this happen? Like,
Kevin McAllister aiming for Marv again, throwing
yeah,
bricks.
literally. It was one of those moments, and like the guy like came out, he was very apologetic. I pulled over, and he was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry," and I was just like, it's okay, we'll figure something out. These things happen." And he just looked at me, and he was like, "Really? Do things like this happen? Do bricks fall out of the sky on your car often?" And I was like, "Yeah, fair enough, good point."
Falling out the sky. Yeah, this is the such a wonderful sense of irony here because, if Marty was in the car, acting and playing along, this all would have just been an act from George. But no, he found his courage and
Yeah,
became a better person. Perfect.
it's so well
And
done,
again,
and
you mentioned like this screenplay is taught in like screenplay courses and for
yeah,
good
yeah.
damn reason.
Oh, 100%. It's so well done, and it's like Leah Thompson's really good there because it's quite. She's playing that there as though it's this, as though it's like a really like hard hitting drama, and it works. She
Mhm.
looks terrified, and it's like quite distressing because she's like crying and everything. Like it definitely kind of sells it.
Mhm.
It's like such a punch the air moment. This.
Really? Oh yeah, when this was in the stage version, the entire audience cheered.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
So I'm willing to bet like 99% of the audience had seen the film, so
Yeah,
they were just cheering because they all saw it coming.
it's so satisfying as well. Oh,
It is,
I
yeah.
love it. It never fails. I mean, it's not the moment that gives me goosebumps is when they kiss at the dance, and then like Marty springs back into
Things back
frame,
to
and the song
life,
continues.
yeah.
That bit always just gives me
Yeah, that's
chills
the
when I
proper
watch it.
punch the air moment.
That is, yeah. But it's like, what a great film! The fact that in the space of 10 minutes, it's got two massive yeah moment, like two massive punch the air moments. So it's a sign of such a great film that it can have that.
Hmm. Yeah, I do need the chance to see this on the big screen one day.
Yeah, so it was when they did the anniversary, and it was this and the second one double billed, um, which is great fun.
Well, next year the trilogy turns 40.
Yeah, fucking hell, holy shit! It's been 10 years since nearly 10 years since I saw that in the cinema. What the fuck? Oh my god!
I mean, this year is now. I mean, this year is 10 years since I first watched the trilogy. Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah, this year is really hitting me with how mad it is that it's been 10 years since 2014. I cannot believe in August it will have been 10 years since Capaldi became the Doctor and his
Yeah.
first series and stuff. That is just insane to me. Now,
The only problem is, did we really need this guy?
yes, I was about to say this is the one of the few things about the film that I'm just like, yeah, who's this random kid who like laughs maniacally as well, like he's going ha 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 ha, like it's yeah, this is the yeah,
I
this
get it.
doesn't
I suppose it's there to say that, George is not going to let anyone walk all over him again. So,
yeah,
um, I suppose, yeah, it can't really be Biff because he already punched him. So,
yeah,
I suppose
exactly.
it works for what it is. It's just we don't know who this guy is. It's just like, hey, McFly, putting in.
And the hand shot doesn't look great either with his hand.
Yeah.
It's one of the weakest effects in the film. However, we then get this lovely moment.
And again, everyone cheered at this moment too in the stage version
Yeah.
where they kiss and Marty springs back to life.
Ah, it's so good. It's the fact that the music cuts out and then comes straight back in that really makes it. It's just oh
Yeah, because Marty starts to fade and like the sound is fading as well, as if we're in his head.
yeah. And then like you could, if you really wanted to, run straight from that to the big lightning, the big final set piece at the end. But the film just lets itself have a victory lap, which I think is so cool. The Johnny Be Good
Hmm.
sequence doesn't need to be in the film. The day is saved. He just needs to
Yeah,
get back
true.
now.
Well,
But it's one of the most infectiously fun bits in all of the film, and that's
yeah.
ugh. And as
I'd say
again,
the only problem with it is that you can tell it's not Michael J. Fox singing.
oh yeah, no, 100%.
His voice
But
has become like 50 octaves.
yeah, but again though, it doesn't really. It is a victory lap moment for the film, and I'm so glad that it has that. Ah, it's just excellent.
I mean, and it gave birth to the meme of like, guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your
Yeah,
kids are gonna love it. Yeah, I've seen that meme used for like the Star Wars prequels, the Timothy Dalton Bond films. Like, I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but
yeah.
your kids are gonna love it.
Oh, it's so funny.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I'll admit, Family Guy did do a pretty cool parody of Back to the Future with
Yeah.
I think it's called The Quagmires, and they have Brian Singer,
Hmm?
"Never Gonna Give You Up." It's hey Rick, it's your cousin Marvin Ashley. You know that genetic sound you've been looking for? Listen to this.
That's so good. Again, the Chuck Berry, it's so like, okay, fair play.
I like how they're all looking at him like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I
Because
know.
even though rock and roll had started in the 50s, I just don't think it was as hardcore as this. Like,
Yeah. And it's like it cuts away from the audience and doesn't cut back until he's finished and their horrified faces.
yeah, brilliant.
It's funny as well because I watch this and I do just think of like the other Marty running around um,
You do,
outside
yeah,
that door.
when we get to the sequel, yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing him on stage doing Johnny Be Good, I just think to Biff's cronies being like, get up there. It changes
Yeah.
clothes so fast.
He's in disguise. And obviously, it's a bit of a paradox because he essentially creates himself there by giving them the name and stuff. But like with any time travel thing, you're gonna run into um you're gonna run into things like that. But this film keeps it
Yeah.
simple and it works.
And according to Leah Thompson, for her and Crispin Glover to like give the impression that they're a married couple, apparently he invited her over to his apartment to help paint a volcano on the wall.
Right.
Yeah, that was odd, but we did bond over it.
That's so on brand.
Yeah. I'll say this about each film, like each of their climaxes of getting Back to the Future, when I first watched them, they just had me on the edge of my seat.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, even though it's literally the same scene, in different time periods or something like that, the fact that they can get you on the edge of your seat no matter
Yeah.
what is just a testament to how brilliant the films are.
It's almost impossible not to, be on the edge of your
Hmm.
seat. It's just the music, the performances, the editing of it. It's so. Oh.
Hmm. So yeah, the note. So obviously in the stage version, he dies of plutonium rather than terrorists.
Yeah.
Later, you see Future Doc wearing body armor. In the stage version, it's like remember to wear gloves.
Right. Okay.
That's literally the payoff to it, but it works in the
Yeah,
stage
it
version
works.
as well. And here's a fun fact: because Eric Stoltz was around for like several weeks on this film, but apparently he has no memory of it.
Really? That's
Yeah,
interesting. No memory of
yeah, because
it.
Tom Wilson, who plays Biff, said he didn't get on well with him because he said he took it just way too seriously,
Yeah.
and insisted to be called Marty even when the cameras weren't rolling. He said the only time he broke character in between takes was when he started flirting with Leah Thompson.
Oh, okay.
But the ironic thing is, Michael J. Fox and Tom Wilson, they got on like a house on fire.
Yeah, yeah.
The stage really well. Like by the end of the film, by the end of the stage version, when everyone's coming off of the bows, they get the DeLorean flying in the air.
Oh,
Don't know how they do
nice.
it live, but it's so cool to see.
That's so cool. Yeah, because by that point, I
Yeah,
guess it's like a real moment of uh like
a moment
this is
of
what you're
awe,
here
yeah,
for.
and applause,
Yeah,
and also it's
exactly.
how the film ends with the DeLorean flying off.
Yeah,
I do wonder how they're ever going to do musicals of part two and three.
I kind of hope so.
Yeah, you never know. We mentioned how great the score is, but there's no like obviously you've got Power of Love being played in the opening when Marty's going to school, but
Mm,
there's no proper instrumental score until you first see the DeLorean.
that's very true. Wow,
Yeah,
I
as
hadn't
if to
even.
say the DeLorean is the music of the film. It's the
That's
thing that
so true.
gets us everywhere.
I
Yeah,
hadn't even. I have never ever thought about that. But wow, huh?
yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I always tense up at this scene because
Yeah.
lightning's about to strike, but the engine's stalled, and I'm like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, get the engine on. Yeah, that's how great the endings to each of these films are. They always get you tensed up.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
And it's because it is like down to the wire. you know.
And the fact that it keeps cutting to the clock slowly ticking minute
Yeah.
by minute, it's brilliant. Don't want the end of the circuit wire to fall off his leg. It's just perfectly
Oh
done.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's like, it is the tensest shit, and they stretch it so much to a point where it's like, oh man, um, come on. But it works beautifully, and the fact that it's just like he just is very Doctor Who. He punches it and it works.
Yeah. that's the perfect thing about the climax. You think you've solved one problem, but then another problem occurs.
I know. Yeah.
It's the perfect way to rack up the tension right up until the last minute, because it'd just be so simple for the lightning to strike the tower and Marty to go
Yes.
back. But yeah, they perfectly milk it, and it's great. Here's a fun fact. Apparently, the DeLorean would be powered by Coca-Cola.
Yes. Because why
That's
not?
just silly. Yeah, why not? I probably maybe that's why they have Pepsi instead, because everyone's drinking a Pepsi. Maybe they couldn't get Coca-Cola to sponsor.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. Yeah, and I remember on the stage
Oh,
version, like
it's
when they got the DeLorean back, everyone cheered again, you know?
yeah.
It was just utterly perfect.
Do you know what? 3 punch the air moments there. That's the third one in this last act. Oh, it's brilliant.
Definitely, yeah. I know. Absolutely perfect. I like how it's got the ending with Doc as well, you know?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
Daisy could
yeah.
have followed Marty. Daisy could have just had Marty go back, but they stay behind to have Doc celebrate and realize, yeah, one of his inventions definitely worked. Because
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, sometimes when I watch this, I half expect the other Marty to start running towards Doc and saying, "I'm back from the future."
Yeah, same. Because again, that's recreated so well, and also the edit where he looks up into the sky, and then for a moment you think, "Oh, it's 1955 still." Then you see the helicopter, and it pans down to, the kind of run down version. It's like, oh, that's a beautiful bit of editing there that really plays with you.
hmm He crashed into a theatre that says Assembly of Christ. Is this an
Apparently,
anti-religious message?
yeah,
Yeah, well, the town is obviously more run down than it is in the 50s, but I just love the irony of Marty's joke saying, "Yes, everything looks great."
yeah, I know. And then the terrorists drive straight past. Well, you think
hmm
they'd sort of notice this big fucking ice-covered vehicle in the middle of the road.
hmm Nah, they were too angry about the plutonium.
Lone Pine Mall. Such a
It is,
subtle
yeah.
joke.
It's gone from twin to lone, hasn't it?
It's such a subtle gag. It's brilliant.
hmm Definitely. Funny how you see one scene from a certain point of view, and then it's
Mm.
like Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale looked at this one particular scene and thought, maybe we could make the sequel about that.
Yeah, yeah, because I love that concept. I guess we'll talk more about it when we get to the sequels, but yeah.
hmm I just realised. I mean, obviously we'll get to it, but in the third film, Marty survives the duel by wearing body armor.
Yeah, yeah. So, oh, that's another thing that's sort of set up in this one and unintentionally follows it. Yes. Oh,
hmm
that's so good.
It's funny because we're about to come to the end, and despite setting up for a sequel, when they were making the film, a sequel was not even in mind. It was just all, let's end with a bit of a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
They said, had we known there was going to be a sequel, we never would have gone to the future like this and be about Marty's kids. We never would have put Jennifer in the DeLorean or anything like that. We were just kind of they kind of shot themselves in the foot, but we'll get to it. But they managed to pull it off quite well, to be honest.
Yeah, because contrary to popular belief, it doesn't have to be continued at the end. It did on the VHS release.
Yes, that's right. But I think for the Blu-ray, they've now just like shown the original as it was in theaters, where it never said to be continued or something like that.
Yeah, because every time there's a re-release of these films, people are like, they've changed the ending, they've removed it from the ending, and you always have to explain to these people that was never in there. That was only in the version on VHS. And it was only in the VHS version to promote the second one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I know a lot of people have a problem with this ending because it's like his world is just completely changed, and it's a completely different place to what he left it.
Yeah, true. I mean,
But
yeah, but I like it. It shows that, like,
yeah,
because early in the film, Marty says it's like what Doc told me: if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
yeah,
And the original George probably never did that, but now he has done that. It's funny how it's Marty who says it's like what Doc told me. But we never hear Doc Brown actually say that. If you
yeah,
put your mind to
exactly.
it, you can accomplish anything.
It's such a great like
Mhm.
uh, kind of payoff as well to have Biff be there, be under
Oh
their
yeah.
employ. Ah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, he plays cowardly Biff so well.
I think he's an underrated actor in these films, because he has to do a lot of like different,
hmm
variations of Biff and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know Thomas Wilson has voiced like I think he'll voice Bully Fish or Tough Guy Fish on SpongeBob, and you can
Yes, yeah.
definitely be right.
He's in a lot as well. He does a lot of kind of voice acting and stuff.
hmm
That's a chunky novel as well.
Yeah,
It's not a short book.
yeah.
This ending, which was then recreated shot for shot.
I'm always am- yeah, I'm always amazed how similar they both are. Obviously, the big difference is
Yeah,
Claudia Wells and Elizabeth Shue.
it's quite an achievement though, because I think even if, because especially because it was a few years later, you've got to like, if you're recreating something shot for shot, camera movement by camera movement, like it's really quite impressive when you watch them side by side how accurate it is.
When I first saw part two, I thought, oh, is this like stock footage used from the
Yeah,
first film? But nope, they recreated it really well.
another obvious stunt double when Doc pulls up. It's just like somebody in a really
Oh,
bad wig.
yeah.
But again, like you say, this was just meant to be a gag. But it says a lot that like the strength of like the costume design for the future stuff was so well done, that it could carry a whole film come part two.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and I've got to say that that DeLorean with the Mr. Fusion on it is my kind of favorite design of the DeLorean.
Mhm.
And it's this wonderfully iconic ending that takes us into the end credits with the flying car, because why not?
Yeah. It's like what the Honest trailer said. They made the same film three times.
Yeah, basically.
They beat up the bully, fix the future, and set up a sequel.
It's mad though, right? Because like the flying car, I mean, it's such a great effect. You know, it holds up super well. Um, but yeah,
Certainly does, yeah.
I mean, you can take that back the whole film though. It
Oh yeah,
holds up
Back to the
absolutely
Future.
brilliantly.
It's just a flawless masterpiece, you know.
Yeah, it is.
I'm amazed. Like it's 40 years old next year, and I'm just like, oh God, but it's not aged a day, to be honest.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's you could, you can still show this to somebody now, and there's nothing in there that's like dated really at all. I think it is just this um beautiful little lightning in a bottle film. It's very rare that a film as perfect as this comes along. And
Definitely,
I
yeah.
I don't it it's so it's almost like it's so iconic that sometimes if you say it's a masterpiece and everything, people kind of shrug it off sometimes. But actually, just on a technical level and how it's written, the screenplay especially, I think, is just one of the best ever written.
hmm
As we've discussed
Yeah,
in this,
definitely.
it's unmatched in how it sets things up, in the character arcs, in the dialogue. Um, it's perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect film, but this comes damn close.
Oh yeah, definite. It's cool you still see the actors at conventions. I know last year at Wales Comic Con, I think Leah Thompson and James Tolkien were there,
Oh, nice.
and Claudia Wells was too. Yeah.
Yeah, Claudia Wells does a lot now.
Mhm.
I think because the reason she didn't come back for sequels was I think her mother had cancer. Um,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Hmm.
and so yeah, it's nice that she's kind of stepped back into that world again. It's a shame Elizabeth Shue doesn't really do much with the franchise these days.
Yeah, which is a
But
shame because despite her small role in part two, she has got great comedic timing. Like the way she's reacting to everything is just really funny.
she still does a lot. She's a jobbing actor as well. She still does a lot um, of work. So yeah, it's a shame that she's. But it's funny as well looking at all these songs, and like the soundtrack is such a big part of it too, because it is such a time capsule of a specific era, and it is, like I say,
Yeah, and also The instrumental score by Alan Silvestri. It's
Yes,
like Star Wars. You just can't imagine this film without that music.
100%. And like I said at the top, this is the when I think of the 80s, this is the first film that comes to mind in terms of that
Yeah,
decade of cinema.
it might be my favorite film from the 1980s, I think.
Yeah, probably same. It just doesn't. There's nothing that comes close to it, I don't think. Um,
Yeah.
so yes, that was Back to the Future, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed the commentary. What are we going to be looking at next time?
Next time we are heading back to the future. Well, it's now back to the past. We're going all
Yeah.
the way back to the future of 2015 with Back to the Future Part 2.
Yes, we are indeed. So look forward to that. In the meantime, you can check out our previous commentaries and subscribe to Isaac's channel and follow us both on social media. Alrighty, guys, take care now. Bye bye.